Hello everybody, Kudo Winston here, and today I am going to be doing my 2000 subscribers special. And I don't know what to say, but thank you guys so much for subscribing and watching my videos. So with that out of the way, let's get to this what if. This what if being, what if My Hero Academia was a game? And I know you guys are a bit confused by this title, but bear with me, let me explain. In this what if, the My Hero Academia world is normal. And by normal, I mean it is just like ours with no superpowers. The only difference being that the My Hero Academia world is a bit more high-tech. Or well, advanced. Now, without further ado, let's start this what if. Our story begins with Deku being a high school student and living your everyday normal life. Him being in the middle of walking back home, as that was when his childhood friend Katsuki Bakugo would have ran up to him. And just so all of you guys know, in this what if, Deku and Bakugo are very good friends, since there are no quirks in this timeline. Bakugo wouldn't get his so arrogant and prideful personality. Whenever Bakugo ran up to Deku, he would have asked Deku about the new game that was just released today, the name of the game being My Hero Academia. Deku saying, "Oh, that game? No, I'm not buying it." "What? What do you mean you're not buying it? Come on, it's a new game, plus it's on a new device." New game or not, our job as a student is to focus on our studies. So stop buying all those games, Kachan, and just study, would ya? Studying is for nerds like you. I don't need to study to get first place in exams. Do you now, Kachan? When was the last time you got first place in an exam? If I remember correctly, the last time you got first place in an exam was middle school. Hey, you don't know that? Really now, Kachan? I believe my memory is better than you. I guess you do have a point then. Deku saying, "Plus, even if I want to buy that game, I can't. I don't have enough money to buy it." Really, Deku? You really think that excuse is going to work? What excuse? Dude, you've been saving up your allowance ever since middle school. How did you know that, Kachan? You never bought a game, duh! Dude, I still have to eat. The point is, you have enough money to buy the game, so that excuse doesn't work. Now can you please buy the game and play it with me? Okay, Kachan, you begging? That is just suspicious. What do you want from me? Since when was it this hard to try and get a friend to play a game with you? Oh, so you just want me to buy the game so we can play together? Sure, why not? Wait, what? I said, since you want to play the game with me, yes, I'm going to buy it. Then what was that entire conversation about? It's about you asking me if I want to buy the game for myself, is it not? Never mind. So, when are we going to meet, Kachan? Aren't we just going there and buy the game right now? Of course not. I don't have enough money in my wallet to buy the game right now. So I'm going back home and basically restocking. So you do have enough money. Now, after Deku quote-unquote restocked, he would have met up with Bakugo and basically went shopping, them buying the new gaming device and the new game, with Deku after buying the game going back home. And just as he got back home, he would have went to his room and start reading the instructions and the introduction to the game. Him having to understand and memorizing the entire introduction to the game and instructions on how to play the game in like 5 minutes. As after reading the instructions and introductions, Deku would have put on the new gaming device and started the game. Him having to close his eyes, and whenever Deku opened his eyes again, he would have been in an empty space, with Deku having to see a sentence right in front of him, it being, "Welcome to My Hero Academia. Please type out your username." Deku, after thinking about the names he could use, in the end, he would have just used Deku, since later on he does need to meet up with Bakugo, and it is better to have Bakugo to recognize the name he is using, as after Deku confirmed his name, he would have been transported to the center of a village, or well, a town. Him being a bit confused since there is not as many people as he thought. Deku using either of his hands, he would have accessed his menu. Him finding out that his default armor is the worst armor in the game. Not only is its stats bad, it is also literally called the worst armor in the game. Deku having to sigh a bit, as that was when Deku would have found the item he was looking for, the Quirk Randomizer. It is basically an item that allows you to get a quirk. After finding this item, Deku would have pressed the use button, but whenever he did, that was when a notice would have appeared in front of his face, it saying that this item cannot be used right now, and that to use this item, he needs to be in a shop. Deku pulling out a map of this town from his menu, he would have navigated his way towards the shop. Him arriving in it, and just as Deku was about to press the use button on that item, he would have found out that there is a rates button. Him, instead of pressing the use button, he would have pressed the rates button. Him seeing the different quirks of, well, this game. Him finding out that there are 5 types of quirks, them being common, uncommon, rare, super rare, and ultra rare. As for the rates of each type, common has 50%, uncommon and rare both have 20% each, super rare has 8%, and ultra rare has 1%. Deku, after adding up all of those percentage, would have found out that there is still 1% missing, as he would have scrolled down to the bottom of the list, finding out that there is a, well, another type, the type being called worthless, it being 1%, and inside the worthless tier, there is only one quirk, that being quirkless. Deku being a bit confused, as he would have pressed the information button on quirkless, it saying quirk tier worthless, quirk name quirkless, superpower none. Deku thinking, well, since quirkless is as rare as ultra rare, there is a pretty good chance that I'm not getting it. As after scrolling around a bit more and trying to find the quirk that he wants the most, Deku would have came across a few interesting quirks, them being Bubblehead, Sticky Balls, Multi-Arms, Invisible, which all of those are common, Earphone Jack, which is rare, Creation, which is super rare, and the 3 that caught his eyes the most, Erasure, All for One, and One for All, which all 3 of them are ultra rare. Deku, after finding the one he wants the most, he would have pressed the use button on that item, as whenever he did, that was when everything around him would have turned into black. Him being confused, as 8 stars would have appeared right in front of Deku, with a line shooting out from one star towards another. Basically, imagine the scene where Deku uses One for All, and we, the audience, sees the successors of One for All passing One for All down to the next successor. And just as the line reaches the number 8, star, it would have shot out a line which would have stopped right in front of Deku, as a text would have appeared saying that touch the light to get a quirk. Deku raising up his right hand and doing so. And just as Deku touched that line made of light, that line would have started to wrap itself around Deku, it going straight into Deku's chest. With that, summoning animation ending. Deku crossing his fingers, he would have thought, fingers crossed, please don't be bendy fingers. As whenever he opened his menu to check what his quirk is, he would have been stunned by what his quirk is. Him saying, I'm quirkless. With the people around Deku hearing what he just said, they would have started to laugh at him. But after everyone started to laugh at Deku for like 10 seconds, that was when someone would have yelled, "Hey look, this guy got explosions!" With everyone looking straight at that direction, since explosions is one of the super rare quirks. As inside the crowd, a player named Ground Zero would have been praised for getting the quirk explosions, and in the corner of his eye, he would have saw a player named Deku leaving the shop. Him thinking, Deku? Now, outside of the shop, Deku would have just been standing there thinking about how he should have gotten an ultra rare quirk instead of a worthless quirk, aka quirkless. But that was when a player would have put his hand on Deku's shoulder saying, "Hey, what took you so long?" Deku being confused and turning around seeing the player Ground Zero. Him saying, do I know you?" "Of course you do. It's me, Katsuki." "Oh, Kachan. So you got explosions. Good for you." "So you got quirkless. Good for you then." Shut up. With Deku just turning around and walking away. Bakugo yelling, "Hey Deku, where are you going?" Deku answering, "I'm going to the gear shop." "Gear shop? For what?" "For buying gear, of course. What else?" "I know that, but I mean, what do you need the gear for?" "For doing different quests." "Oh, okay. Mind if I tag along?" "Sure, why not?" As both Deku and Bakugo would have went over to the gear shop, them having to find out that they both each have $10,000. With Deku opening the shop menu, he would have found two tabs. Sections. One being armor, the other being weapons. Deku clicking on the armor section, he would have found a set of armor being on sale, as he would have compared the stats of the shop's armor and the default armor, him finding out that the stats are completely the same. Him thinking, really? This armor's stats are the same as the default one. The only difference is the name. So this is what they call clickbait. Well, I'm not gonna buy it. Only an idiot would buy this armor. Right after Deku thought about that, he would have switched over to the weapons section. Him finding 10 types of weapons. Them being one-handed swords, two-handed swords, katanas, daggers, spears, axes, staffs, gauntlets, guns, and shields. Deku, even though he already knows about these 10 types of weapons, since he did read the instructions, or well, the introduction, he would still take some time to read the descriptions of every single weapon. And by some time, I mean like a few seconds. Right after Deku read the descriptions of every single weapon, he would start to compare them, him basically muttering to himself. Bakugo being right next to Deku, he would have turned around and see Deku muttering to himself with a very serious face, him saying, "Seriously, Deku, when can you change that bad habit of yours?" Deku, snapping out of it, he would have said, "Oh, sorry about that, Kachan. It's just that choosing weapon for me is very important, since I don't have a quirk. If I don't choose a weapon that is best suited for me, I will not be of much help in the fight." Bakugo saying, "You know, Deku, you can't just find the best suited weapon for you just by looking at it. You need to feel it and experience it yourself. So, I'm suggesting you to buy every single one of them." Kachan, but one weapon costs $5,000. How can I buy every single weapon when I only have $10,000? Deku, the weakest weapon of each weapon type is only $1,000. Oh, oh yeah. But the damage is significantly smaller. Who cares about damage, Deku? The only thing that you need to care about now is to find a weapon that suits you the most. So stop complaining and just buy them. Okay then, Kachan. As Deku would have bought the weakest and the cheapest weapon in each weapon type, him using all of his money to buy all those 10 weapons. After buying it and managing his inventory, he would have closed the menu and turned to look at Bakugo, him seeing Bakugo in a new set of armor. Bakugo saying, "What do you think about my new armor and gauntlets, Deku?" Deku whispering, "You're such an idiot." "What did you say, Deku? I didn't hear it." "I said you just wasted your money." What do you mean?" "Just look at the stats of your new armor and your default one." Bakugo, realizing that they have the same stats, he would have been enraged. Bakugo having to yell at the developers and the creator of this game for even putting this in the game. Deku seeing his friend basically yelling at nothing, he would have just face-palmed himself and, well, being disappointed at Bakugo. Now, after gearing up, Bakugo would have sent a party invitation to Deku, which Deku accepts. After that, Deku would have talked to a NPC and got a quest. Bakugo being a bit confused since in the other games he played, normally only the leader can accept quests. As after accepting the quest, which is to kill 20 boars, Deku and Bakugo would have went to the forest where they can find the boars. And whenever they got there, Bakugo would have asked Deku for a competition. The competition being who can kill more boars, which Deku accepts. But before they start the competition, Deku would have asked Bakugo, "Hey Kachan, did you know that there are free chats?" Free what? Or should I say free channels? Oh, that. No, I did not know that. Well then, Kachan, let me explain. There are three channels. One being the general chat, or well, the world chat. The second being the clan chat, or the guild chat. The last one being the party chat. Okay, Deku, but why you bring that up now? Because, Kachan, in the world channel, you can only hear the other's conversation if you are within 10 meters, and the more you're away from them, the less you can hear them. But if you use the guild chat or the party chat, they can hear your conversation and see your conversation whenever and wherever they are. Meaning that if you need help, or we just want to find each other's locations, then we can use the party chat. Bakugo smirking and saying, like I'll need your help, Deku. I played more games than you. As for you, it might be the opposite way around. You might actually need my help. You're right about that, Kachan. But maybe not. Well, on your mark, Kachan. Bakugo getting ready to charge into the forest and kill all the boars he sees. He would have said, on three. Free. As before Deku can say two, Bakugo would have already ran off into the distance. Deku yelling, "Hey, that's cheating!" Oh well. Now, whenever Deku found a boar and equipped his one-handed sword and shield, a new section of the menu would have popped up, it being called Skill Tree. Deku clicking on that tab as a skill tree would have popped up, with Deku finding out that he has one skill from each skill tree. And by each skill tree, I mean each weapon/class. And after understanding what each skill does, he would have started to test them at the boars. Basically using those skills to attack the boar one by one and try to combo them. Basically, for each boar, Deku is going to use a different weapon to kill it. Him having to experience every single weapon and learn how to use them. Plus, since he's not doing that much damage, he would also use that time to come up with some combinations, or combos, which would link his normal attacks with his skills. As after killing 9 boars just like that, he would have experienced every single weapon. So for the last boar, Deku is going to try using all of the weapons at the same time, or switching them mid-fight. Now, after killing the 10th boar, Deku would have sat down under a tree and start to think about which weapon and class he should choose. Deku thinking, damn it, this is a hard choice. Even though the axe has the strongest amount of damage output, its attack speed is a lot lower. But using a dagger gives you 10% speed rated stats. However, a dagger has the lowest attack, and if I chose a sword, even though its attack speed is normal, its damage is not going to be as high as the two-handed sword, which is stronger but is a tad bit slower than the sword. As for the staff and gun, guns has the fastest attack speed and the longest range, but the staff can put poison and debuff on the enemy. Also, it can restore HP. And I can't forget about the katana and the gauntlets. The katana can give buffs to yourself and your teammates, Even though its attack is a tad bit lower than the sword, its utility is a lot more than the sword. However, the gauntlet has a 10% increase on attack speed. Even though it has the shortest range, it is still by far the best close range weapon. Ah, damn it, this is so hard. And don't get me started with the classes. Wait, I'm forgetting about something. Oh yeah, the spear. The spear has the 4th highest attack speed and has the 4th highest damage output. Not only that, it also has 2 types of attacks, one being stabbing, the other being slashing. I can't choose. Every single one of the weapons has their own uniques and specialty. If I just choose one of them, then I am going to be at a disadvantage at one of the weapons. Wait a second. On second thought, Deku opening his skill tree, as he would have found out that for each weapon there are 15 skills before they need to ascend to a class and continue the tree. So if he unlocks every single skill from every weapon and not choose a class, there would be 150 skills at his disposal. But if he doesn't choose a class, then he won't have high damaging skills, meaning that he would have to rely on tactics and combos. Now, before Deku can think about this matter even more, that was when a huge explosion can be heard. Deku being confused, as he would have stood up and looked around trying to find where that explosion came from. Him finding out that that explosion came from Bakugo's direction. Him immediately rushing towards that explosion. Deku using the party chat, he would have asked Bakugo if he's alright or not. To which Bakugo just says that he kind of is in a pickle. Deku getting a bit worried, he would have switched to his dagger. Him basically increasing his speed and running towards that direction as fast as he can. And whenever he did arrive, he would have saw some burn mark on the floor and a giant boar. Deku being confused, as before he can move in even closer, that was when he would have saw Bakugo on the ground and about to be crushed by that boar. Deku seeing that, he would have immediately switched to his guns. Him firing the gun straight at the boar to try and get its attention, which he does. The boar stopping its attack on Bakugo and switching its focus on Deku. As whenever it did, Deku would have immediately changed back into his dagger and, run away. As while he was running away, he would have used the party chat to ask Bakugo what happened. Bakugo just seeing that whenever he killed the 10th boar, he saw that giant boar that's currently chasing after Deku. Him thinking that this boar has more loot than the other, he would have tried to attack it without looking at the level. And whenever the boar attacked back, that was when Bakugo would have realized that he is in trouble, because this boar is kind of a hidden boss, and it is level 20. With Deku just letting out a sigh, he would have just told Bakugo that he is going to turn back and run back straight at him, and that he needs to get an explosion ready. Bakugo being confused, as Deku would have also told Bakugo that he needs to throw an explosion in the boar's eye, or eyes. And whenever Deku told Bakugo that, he would have stopped running away from the boar and turned around. Him changing his weapon from his dagger to his staff. Deku, after doing that, he would have immediately ran towards the boar and used a skill named Research. Just as Deku did that, the boar would have charged straight at Deku, which Deku would barely be able to dodge. Him changing back into his dagger as he would immediately run straight towards Bakugo's direction. Now, whenever he arrived at Bakugo's direction, Orwell just is right next to Bakugo, he would have told Bakugo to get ready to throw the explosion, which he does. And a second later, the boar would have been straight in front of Bakugo. Bakugo doing what Deku said, he would have thrown an explosion into the boar's eyes, which would have blinded the boar for a couple seconds. Deku using this time, he would have hit both himself and Bakugo. So whenever the boar regained his eyesight, it will be confused as to where they are. But in reality, Deku and Bakugo are just behind a tree right next to the boar. Bakugo asking Deku why they are hiding, which Deku just tells him that if they don't hide and basically regroup, then they are definitely going to get killed. Bakugo saying, "Okay, then do you have a plan, Deku?" "Well, my plan at first was to just escape from here, but judging by how long I know you, you would of course not go with that idea." "Yeah, you got that right, Deku. Think about all the loot we can get from this hidden boss. Of course we can't just let it go." "Yeah, you're right. So that's why I'm currently trying to think of a way to kill it." "Wait, so you're saying that we can kill it? Given enough time? Yes, of course. But we'll see." As Deku would have opened a menu which shows the stats of this hidden boss and its weakness, or well, what it is weak to. Bakugo being a bit confused seeing that Deku is just looking at the stats of their enemy. Him asking Deku how he did that, to which Deku just explains that he has a skill that allows him to read the stats of others. It can read the stats of everything except for players. Now, Deku would have asked Bakugo, Kachan, did you choose your class yet?" Bakugo answering, "No, why did you ask?" "Good, here, take this." Deku handing over his great sword, or well, his two-handed sword. Bakugo being a bit confused since this great sword is almost just as strong as his gauntlets. Him asking Deku why he is giving him this great sword, which Deku just tells Bakugo that this hidden boss is weak to heavy-weighted weapons, which is why Deku is handing out this great sword to Bakugo. Bakugo understanding as he would have asked another question, it being why Deku asked Bakugo if he already chose a class, which Deku just tells Bakugo that if he already chose a class, then he won't be able to use other weapons that are not from his class. Now, after Deku answered Bakugo's questions, he would have came up with a plan to defeat this hidden boss. Him telling Bakugo what the plan is, as Bakugo would have stepped out of that tree and revealed himself to the hidden boss. Him having to grab the hidden boss' attention as that boss, or well, the boar, would have immediately charged at Bakugo, to which Bakugo would have just thrown an explosion towards the ground, this sending Bakugo into the air, as Bakugo would have used a skill from the two-handed sword skill tree, him having to swing his sword from over his head and down onto the back side of this giant boar. After that, Bakugo would have landed right behind that boar and turned around immediately, him having to throw out his hands and throw out multiple explosions, Bakugo having to blast the boar with all of his strength. While this was going on, Deku would have been climbing up a tree, him jumping off of that tree and switching to his axe, him using a skill and smashing the axe down onto the boar's head, this also causing the boar's head to smash into the ground, which would have of course inflicted a bit of damage. And if you're wondering why it is a bit of damage, it's because both Deku and Bakugo are very underleveled, which is why they are not doing a lot of damage. But just then, the boar would have lifted up its head, it having to throw Deku off of his balance and send him stumbling back. The giant boar, after sending Deku stumbling back, it would have turned its attention towards Bakugo, it having to charge straight at Bakugo, as Bakugo, remembering Deku's warnings, he would have thrown an explosion towards the ground and basically dodged its attack, with Deku switching from his axe to his katana. He would have said enhanced attack, him putting a buff on himself which would have increased his attack by 10%. After that, Deku switching to his staff, he would have put a debuff on the boar which would decrease its defense by 10%. And whenever the boar was hit by this debuff, it would have turned its attention towards Deku, which Deku was expecting, him switching from his staff to his dagger, he would have immediately started to run away, with the boar chasing after him. Bakugo, seeing that Deku is distracting the huge boar, he would have started to charge up his explosions, as we would have a flashback to when Deku is still trying to think of a way to defeat this hidden boss, him having to ask Bakugo what his quirk is and how it works, to which Bakugo would just answer that his quirk allows him to throw explosions from his hands, and that by using his quirk he would consume a gauge called quirk stamina. Deku, after getting his question answered, he would have asked another question, it being if Bakugo can charge his attacks. Bakugo just answering that he never tried it before, which Deku would have just told Bakugo to try charging it right now, him doing so and just charging up a very small explosion, it working, as Bakugo would have told Deku that he can charge his attacks. Deku saying, "Good, listen up Kachan, here's the plan." Now, that was when the flashback would have ended, because that was when Deku would have turned around and started to run back towards Bakugo. Deku, while running back towards Bakugo, he would have told Bakugo that he recast the debuff which decreases the boss's defense. Bakugo being a bit confused as to how he did it, but he just didn't question it, him getting ready to consume all of his quirk stamina to throw a huge explosion. Deku arriving right next to Bakugo, he would have told Bakugo to get ready to throw out the explosion. Him getting ready, as that was when both of them would have saw the boar charging straight towards them. Deku saying, "Kachan, wait for it." Bakugo being confused, asking, "Wait for it? Wait for what? It is right in front of us." "No, don't fire it right now. Just wait for it to come a bit closer." "Really? Oh, come on, Deku." "Come on, just a bit closer. Just a bit closer." "There, Kachan, fire!" Bakugo yelling, "Eat this, you fat pig!" Bakugo releasing a gigantic explosion which would have consumed his entire quirk stamina bar. And right after Bakugo threw his explosion, Deku would have immediately grabbed Bakugo by his arm and yanked him towards himself, as that was when the boar would have just charged straight out of the smoke. Bakugo saying, "Wait, that didn't kill it?" Deku saying, "Of course we didn't, we are 15 levels lower than it. Come on, we need to repeat this like 10 times. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me, Deku." "No, I'm not. Watch out!" Deku having to push Bakugo aside, as that was when the boar would have charged straight at them and go right between both of them. Now, since Deku and Bakugo are just chipping away at the boar's health, we'll just time skip to whenever they got it to the red, or well, to about the boar's 10% health, with the boar's health bar reaching its red color. And whenever it did, the boar would start to basically roar. Bakugo being confused, as he would have looked over to Deku. Him seeing Deku just charging in mindlessly. Him yelling, "Kachan, come on, we have to burst it down right now." Bakugo being even more confused, but he would have just followed Deku's instructions. Him immediately running towards the boar and firing multiple explosions, as after emptying his quirk stamina bar, Bakugo would have switched into his great sword, him having to start hacking away at the boar. But just as they were about to kill this hidden boss, that was when the boar would have let out another roar, this sending both Deku and Bakugo flying away, as a red aura would start to surround this hidden boss, or well, the boar. Bakugo being confused, as he would have asked Deku what is going on, to which Deku would just tell Bakugo that the giant boar has entered into its rage mode. Bakugo being confused as to what rage mode is, but before he can ask another question, that was when the giant boar would have started to charge at them, with both Bakugo and Deku realizing that the speed of the boss has increased, it having to smash into both Deku and Bakugo before they can dodge off the way. This, of course, inflicting a buttload of damage, with Deku and Bakugo being on the ground and at 20% of their max HP, or up 20% of their max health. Bakugo would have asked Deku what rage mode is. Deku just telling Bakugo that whenever a boss enters into its rage mode, its attack and speed would be increased by 20%, with its defense being decreased by 20%. Also that whenever a boss enters into its rage mode, it would gain a good effect and a bad effect. As for the boss, or up the hidden boss they are facing right now, the effects are the boss will be able to now charge its charge attack to deal more damage. The other effect being that it won't be able to move or use any skills after attacking for half a second. Just as Deku finished saying that, he would have gotten back up and immediately jumped over to Bakugo to push him out of the way. Bakugo being a bit confused, as that was when the boar would have immediately charged at both of them again. But thanks to Deku, they are now able to dodge out of the way and, well, stay safe and stay alive. Both Deku and Bakugo being able to barely get back up, as Bakugo would have thought, damn it, why is this feeling of pain so real? Bakugo looking over to Deku and seeing his shocked, confused, and in pain expression, he would have realized that Deku is also currently feeling the same pain, and is also thinking about why this feeling of pain is so real. But before they can think about it even more, that was when the giant boar would have started to charge at them again. This time, Bakugo would have thrown an explosion towards the ground, which would have propelled himself towards Deku, him basically pushing both Deku and himself out of the way, with the boar barely able to miss both Deku and Bakugo. As after pushing Deku aside, Bakugo would have got back up to his feet and start to charge up an explosion, him having to rush in and throw out that explosion, which would have cost, let's say, half of his quirk stamina bar, this lowering the boss's HP down to 2%. But whenever Bakugo went in and threw that explosion, that was when the boss would have did a counter attack, it having to smash its head into Bakugo's chest, this sending Bakugo flying away and landing into a tree, with Bakugo's health decreasing from 20% down to, let's say, 4 to 5%. Deku, seeing that Bakugo just used his HP to buy him some time, he would have immediately got back up and switched to his katana, him increasing his attack as he would have switched into his guns, with Deku trying to draw the boss's attention from Bakugo to himself by firing at him, this successfully drawing the boss's attention as the boss would start to charge up its charging attack. And while the boss is charging its charging attack, Deku would have switched into his axe and get ready to use his skill, him waiting for the boss to charge at him, which after a second the boss would start to charge at Deku, and whenever Deku saw the boss moving, he would have swung his axe from behind him and over his head, him activating the skill and yelling, "Smash!" Just as he yelled that, that was when Deku would have swung down the axe onto the boss as hard as he possibly can, him being able to smash the boss's head into the ground and killing it, with the boss after being killed shattering into a billion pieces, basically Sword Art Online death animation. And just as the boss disappeared, Deku's axe would have landed onto the ground, with Deku having to lean onto the axe and basically use it as a staff, or well, a walking stick, him being able to finally catch his breath as Deku would have switched from his axe and into his staff, him walking over to Bakugo and basically using a healing skill on him, Deku being able to recover a bit of Bakugo's HP, him now being at 15% of max HP. Now, Bakugo, after regaining a bit of his HP back, he would start to get back up while leaning onto the tree. Deku, seeing Bakugo struggling to stand on his feet, he would have grabbed onto Bakugo's arm and wrapped it around his neck. Deku saying, "Here, Kachan, let me help you." "Oh, thanks, Deku." As, slowly but surely, both Deku and Bakugo would have gotten back into the town. But Deku would actually walk past the place where they can buy potions to heal themselves. Bakugo asking where Deku is going, to which Deku just tells him that he'll find out when they get there. And whenever they did, they would have been at the center of the town and in front of a fountain. Bakugo being confused and asking, "Deku, why did you bring me here?" "Kachan, do you have enough strength to interact with this fountain?" "Yes, I do." Bakugo raising up his other hand and interacting with this fountain. Deku saying, "Good. When you interact with the fountain, you should see 3 options. Click on the admire option, and then click yes, Kachan." "Okay, Deku, but why do you want to do this now?" "Just trust me, Kachan." Bakugo doing what Deku just said, as he would have received a potion. Bakugo being confused, as whenever he switched to that potion in his inventory, he would have saw that this potion is a full heal potion, meaning that when you drink this potion, your HP will return to 100%, and every single one of the debuffs that is on you will be removed. Bakugo, after seeing this potion, he would of course drink it, or well, use it. After using this potion, he would of course regain 100% of his HP. Him immediately turning to Deku and putting Deku's arm around his neck. Him telling Deku that it is now his turn. Him doing the same thing and regaining 100% of his HP. Now, whenever Deku was healed back to full health, Bakugo asking Deku how he knows about this fountain, to which Deku just tells Bakugo that it's because he read the introduction to the game and instructions on how to play this game. Bakugo saying, "Wait, you read those 2 books? They are like 50 pages long each. How long did it take you to read them?" I think it is 5 minutes or so." Oh yeah, I forgot. You're a nerd." "Well then, Deku, I think it is time for me to log out. I still have to eat dinner and do homework." "Yeah, me too. I'll see you tomorrow then, Kachan." "Yeah, see you tomorrow." With Bakugo just opening his menu. But that was when Bakugo would have asked him, "Deku, how do you log out from this game?" Deku saying, "Log out? What do you mean? The button should be right here." Deku opening his menu and finding the place where the logout button should be. But it is not there. That logout button place is just blank. Now, that will be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. That'll be amazing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching my videos and subscribing. Bye!